So let's take a look at how we use the dash on the SAT. So remember, the SAT is going to test us on the four biggies. All right, so that means the comma, the colon, the semicolon, and the dash. So the dash is a little bit obscure, but it's really super easy to use. And so once the SAT was rewritten in 2016, they started using the dash more than they ever have before. So we want to make sure we understand how to use it. So I have this passage that I made up about coral snakes and king snakes and what makes them different. I know, gripping stuff. So a couple things about dashes before we actually get into this little passage. As I scroll down here, basically we get to use the dash two different ways. We can use them as a single dash. We'll highlight this for us. And we can also use it as a pair of dashes. Alright. So when I use a single dash, I want you to remember this, that you can use a single dash only after a complete sentence. So you have to have a complete sentence before you actually ever use a single dash. Now here's the fun thing about a dash. You can have anything you want after the dash, after a single dash. So if you want to use a complete sentence, or if you want to use a fragment, doesn't matter. The single dash accepts them all. So if my example sentence here says, dashes are spunky punctuation marks, well, that's a sentence. So I can use a dash, and I can add anything I want after this, which says, and easy to use. And there we go. So once again, I can use a single dash as long as I have a full sentence first, and after that single dash, anything goes. Now, the other way of using a dash is using a pair of dashes. And we use a pair of dashes as sort of like an interrupter. Right, so I want you to see that these guys are going to be sort of like an interrupter in the middle of that sentence. And the reason we do that is they kind of highlight something in the sentence. Now, we're going to find there are other ways of highlighting things in a sentence, like parentheses, but a parentheses, they're kind of quiet, whereas a dash is loud, really shouts for attention. So I want you to kind of think about how the pair of dashes is almost like shouting for attention, whatever you put in between those pair of dashes. Now, when you use a pair of dashes, you can put them anywhere in the sentence you want to. So it doesn't have to be a full sentence before you get to that dash, as long as you have a second dash to kind of say, hey, I'm interrupting the flow of this sentence. So if I say something like, other punctuation marks, and then here's my interrupter, that commas, semicolons, colons, are secretly jealous of the dash's coolness. Imagine that's probably true in the grammar world. So once again, I have sort of like this interrupter. So I'm going to put dashes on both sides to kind of interrupt the flow of that outside sentence. All right, so let's take a look at this passage about the coral snake and the king snake. So it says, coral snakes and king snakes are two distinct types of snakes, often confused due to their similar vibrant color pattern. Coral snakes are blank, a distinctive red, yellow, and black banding. All right, so let's take a look at what that is. So it says, hey, which of the following would I actually put in there? And so it says coral snakes are venomous, featuring a distinctive red, yellow, and black banding. So now I have this word venomous. So I'm going to scroll down here and kind of walk you through how I work through this answer. So if you think about it, if I put the word venomous in that sentence, that makes a full sentence. I could say coral snakes are venomous, period. And that works. So if that works, I can put a period there. I can definitely put a dash there. So I can say, hey, that's the end of the sentence. So I like this dash in C. And then I just simply continue on. That's why C was a great choice in this one, because I kind of follow with a dash. Now, technically, you could use a comma after that word venomous, but that wasn't one of our options here. Even though they tried to put a comma after the word venomous in that D choice, they put a weird dash in front of the word venomous. And that wouldn't make sense, because you couldn't say coral snakes are, period. Remember, it has to be a full sentence before you actually consider using the dash. And that's why C is the best choice. Let's continue on. Now, my second sentence shows up a little later in this passage. Now, just a side note, there's only one question per passage on the SAT, but I try to squeeze two in here. So let's continue on. So it says, picking up here with the word in contrast, king snakes are non-venomous and possess a mimicking pattern for protection. The mnemonic, red touch yellow, kill a fellow. Red touch black, friend of Jack, helps differentiate them. So while coral snakes rely on venom for blank snakes use a constriction to subdue prey. Let's kind of figure out what that sentence says. So we'll scroll back down here. So it says, while coral snakes rely on venom, and here are our choices. Let's see these things. So while coral snakes rely on venom for defense, king snakes use constriction to subdue prey. So the problem is going to be this word while. So when you see that word while, I could not just simply say, hey, while coral snakes rely on venom for defense. You can kind of see me doing it here. It's probably a little better for me to highlight right here. So the thing is, I could not just simply say, well, coral snakes rely on venom for defense, period. Because that word while is throwing us off. That's how I know it's not a full sentence. That's also how I know I can't use a dash after that word defense because it's not a full sentence. So because I can't use that single dash there, I'm not going to choose that C choice. But I know enough of grammar to also remember, hey, that's just an adverb clause. While coral snakes rely on venom for defense, comma, into the rest of the sentence, king snakes use constriction to subdue prey. And that's why I'm going to choose that A choice down here for that second answer. So here's a little bonus nugget for you. You never capitalize after a dash, unless it's a proper noun, like a person's name or something like that. But otherwise, you never capitalize after a dash. A little side note for you. So try these next 8 sentences and see if you can kind of figure out, hey, when I'm going to use the dash as sort of an interrupter, or where the dash sort of follows a full sentence, or maybe when the dash is not the right choice and I shouldn't use the dash at all. All right, good luck with all that.